Hello and welcome to Piano Shack with me, Woody. During the last week, I have purchased 2 MIDI controllers. In today's video, I will unbox them, reveal them to you, and explain why I bought them and what I intend to do with them. Okay, so we have one here and one over here. Let me reveal them in the order that I bought them. So we'll start with this one. So, of course, this is the Launchpad Pro from Novation, the professional grid performance instrument. This one is custom designed to primarily work with Ableton Live. I bought it from a very nice gentleman called Andreas, who was super cool. This one has been barely used. Yeah, so I bought it used, obviously. Let's open this one up and take a look then. Before we do that, maybe let's just talk about the features, shall we, together? Let's see what it says on the box. Create dynamic, expressive performances in Ableton Live or any other music software, and even with external MIDI hardware. It's got an 8x8 grid of RGB velocity sensitive pads, very nice to trigger and combine clips, play dynamic beats and melodic lines. Yes, this thing is really tailor-made for the session view in Ableton Live there, where you can launch clips of samples or MIDI files. The different modes they're showing here: note mode, where you can play scales on melodic instruments. We have a drum mode here for the Ableton drum racks, and then the fader mode, where you can control the sends, the volumes, the pans of all your tracks. This, I suppose, is showing the clip mode. Okay, the guy has printed out the manual there. That's pretty sweet of him. Bought from Gear for Music. There's your manual. And there you have it. It does run on USB power, but if you want the extra bright LED illumination on the pads, there's a power supply as well. There's your USB. There should also be some MIDI to 3.5mm jack connectors as well, but he forgot to give them to me. But that's no big deal, because I don't intend to use this to connect to any MIDI devices anyway. I'll be using the USB socket there to connect it straight to the computer. There you can see where the power supply connects, and even an on-off switch. That's pretty nice. This then is the Pro version of the Launchpad. There's also a Launchpad Mini, which is about this size with much smaller and not so nice pads. And then there is the regular Launchpad, which has similar pads, but they're not velocity sensitive, I don't think. Maybe they are, but they're certainly not aftertouch pressure sensitive, which this one is. And you're missing a lot of the function buttons down the side, and the firmware is not as good as on the Launchpad Pro. I've actually owned the regular Launchpad previously and used it to play around with Ableton Live, but I was a bit disappointed with it. I find that as long as you did everything perfectly, it worked quite well. But as soon as you made a mistake, you had to go over to the software and the monitor, and you had to use the keys to undo or delete the clip that you wrongly recorded. Whereas this one, I do believe, is much better, because you can really control all of the features of Ableton from this control surface, meaning you don't have to mess around with the keyboard or mouse. At least that's the hope. For example, the Pro adds some function buttons like undo and delete, and even duplicate, quantize, everything you can do from the control surface using these function buttons at the side. Did I say that the pads were velocity sensitive and with aftertouch, so you can play these quite expressively? Furthermore, they are RGB, so they do light up in different colors depending on the function that you are attempting to use or the color of the clips in Ableton Live. Gotta say, the feel of this controller is really, really nice. Very, very sturdy. And so was the regular Launchpad. This rather fetching orange base on the bottom, so it's definitely not going to slide around, with some little cutouts there so you can hold on to it should you want to do that. Really nice. I think this thing is going to be a pleasure to use. Okay, let's turn our attention to the other controller that I picked up. That's over there on the sofa in this rather fetching gig bag. So this one I bought a couple of days after I purchased the Launchpad. Bought this from a very nice gentleman called Peter, who, when he opened the door to let me in, actually recognized me from the channel. That's always really nice when that happens. Oh, there's a box inside the gig bag here. Let's turn it around. It's something else by Novation. Probably many of you have figured out already by now what it actually is. Look at that, would you believe it? It's yet another Novation Ableton controller. This is the Launchkey 49. So what's this all about? It's a 49 key controller MIDI keyboard designed for Ableton Live. All controls work immediately and can be freely assigned. See your session in full color RGB pads. Yes, this one has just, let's see, 16 pads. They're velocity sensitive, but they don't have aftertouch. It says it has a full-size Novation quality keyboard. We'll be the judge of that. With a fast synth-style action. Take it anywhere, compact and tough. Yeah, we'll see. And it's certainly very, very lightweight. And this one is the Mark II version of the Launchkey. There was a Mark I that was slightly different in color, I think. This one is black. The differences are, the most significant ones anyway, that the pads are RGB. The build quality was slightly improved. It's got a more modern firmware and this InDesign feature that helps with the automatic mapping to the devices and instruments in Ableton. There's probably some other features as well that are improved, but I can't remember what they are. Let's open it up. It's upside down, of course. Astonishingly light, this one. We don't need to bother doing the fridge magnet test here. It's obviously made of plastic. We'll test in a minute to see how sturdy it feels. You guys expect me to do that, I know. And if the lady that complained about me saying guys all the time is watching this video, I apologise once again. It's just a bad habit I've got from watching other people's channels. Guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, here is the very handsome Novation Launchkey 49. Would you look at that? The plastic still sitting on the display, very nice. Conventional pitch bend mod wheels. They feel okay. This is not an expensive keyboard, by the way, guys. I think the new price of this one is about 150 bucks. Somewhere between 150, 200 bucks. I'm not sure about the exchange rates and conversions, things like that. But you do get a copy of Ableton Live Lite as well, with both of these, with the Launchpad over there that's hidden under the packaging right now. And with this one, you get a copy of Ableton Live Lite, which is worth 100 bucks anyway, in my opinion. Sliders feel very good. We've got some rubber buttons down there that feel good as well. An extra slider here. And here are the buttons that select which function in Live you want to assign the pads, the sliders, and the knobs to. This, I think, what they call it, they call this the in control. We'll check when we do the full review and connect this up to the computer. The knobs. They're not endless rotaries, but they feel really good. And here are the pads that feel similar to what we had. Let's pull it up here, actually. They're the same size, aren't they? These ones do feel, these ones are squidgier compared to those, okay? And then we have our transport controls here for the sequencer, stop, record, fast forward, rewind, and so on. So pretty simple. But I'm really hoping that the two of these together will really enable me to get the best out of Ableton Live. I almost forgot, we need to talk, of course, about the keys and the overall feeling of build quality here. So the keys are unusual for a cheap plastic MIDI controller. They are full length, which I haven't seen for ages on a cheap synth or MIDI controller. It's very, very noticeable. And that makes these keys much more pleasant to play, especially on the black keys. You can play all manner of more advanced chords here, and it does feel great. Don't remember if this thing has aftertouch. It feels like it might do. You can see there as I'm leaning onto the keys, a little bit of flex there. But otherwise, the case itself, I'm noticing, is very sturdy. However, there was one small issue I noticed off camera. So this is a glass table. I'm assuming it's flat. I think that's a fairly safe assumption. But the keyboard doesn't sit flat. On this side we're okay. Here it's raised up. I don't know if this is going to be apparent on the video. Get it that way. But it does seem to me like this keyboard is slightly curved. I don't think there's any way you'll be able to see that on the camera there with this wide-angled lens, but could be my eyes, but it does seem to be slightly bowed. It's flat going that way, bowed going. So, not sure what we're going to do about. Oh, very striking colour on the back there. Something is slightly wrong with this, but remember this was a used item. So maybe this was stored in the back of a car on a summer's day or something and it's got slightly bent. We're going to have to address that maybe by putting something under this foot to make it a bit higher. That's the only thing so far that's been slightly disappointing about this controller. So let's talk a bit about why I bought these and what my plans are for them. So I am well aware that it might be overkill to have two MIDI controllers from Novation that do similar things and have similar features for controlling Ableton. But remember, both of these came up for sale used locally, so I didn't need to spend very much money to get both of them really. And I really do want to give it the best shot to see what Ableton can really do when combined with nice hardware controllers. You see, I really believe that the power of Ableton Live comes when you combine it with a nice hardware control surface. My plan then is to go all in on Ableton Live for a little while and really try and figure out what my DAW of choice will be going forward. As many of you know, I'm primarily a Reaper user, but in the last months I've been using Reason, and now I want to check out Ableton Live and then figure out which of those three I will continue to use going forward. I really do like Reaper, as you know. It's extremely powerful and flexible. But I do feel that the workflow at times can be a little bit stinted. It's a little bit clunky to do simple stuff, especially if you compare to Ableton, where you can very, very easily, with a minimum of mouse clicks, get a 2-bar, 4-bar loop going and add different sounds and drums to it. I think it's a lot simpler in Ableton, so I really want to give it a good chance, and that's why we bought the hardware as well. So the next steps for me is to start learning probably how to use the Novation Launchpad Pro to the best effect. And I'll be doing that over on my Twitch channel. If you guys want to follow along and watch my progress and perhaps even contribute and help me out, then you can do so over on Twitch. If you follow me over there, you'll get a notification when I go live, and you can jump into the chat room and interact with me. That'd be really nice, and I'd appreciate that a lot. You can find me on twitch.tv/woodypianoshack. There are, of course, links in the description. And of course, once I've figured out how to use these and what the strengths and the weaknesses are, then expect to see a full review on my YouTube channel. I won't be connecting these to the computer and playing them today. I need to figure out how to use them first so that we can give a good and fair review. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching this video and hanging out with me as we've revealed these instruments. I hope you found it interesting. And if you are yourself a user of the Launchpad, perhaps the Ableton Push, which is a competitor here, or any other control surface for Ableton, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for subscribing, as always, liking the video, all that good stuff. I'll see you again soon. Cheerio.